Hey friends, how's it going? What's happening? I haven't popped up here in a couple days, so just thought I'd say hello. So how's everybody doing? How's everybody managing staying at home, sitting still? How's everybody managing the what you might call the state of imposed liminality? This threshold, this moment of in between and in betwixt. We are, I think, on the other side of the peak. That's what the data shows, at least. And so the light at the end of the tunnel has become apparent, which I think means that we can start imagining what coming out of this looks like, and in what ways is our return to normality about going back to the way things were versus evaluating all the ways in which things might change and become better. No doubt over the next days and weeks, this will be a top of the line conversation among many people. I have been doing my best to find spaces that open up when you drop the thread of time. There was this interesting article in Vice that was saying that time has become meaningless in the age of Corona. But time, or at least the way we experience time, is a kind of human construction, right? Mechanized cognition. The Greeks famously make a distinction between two ways of experiencing time-based reality. One is Chronos and the other is Chiros. I've talked about this before, but Chronos is basically mechanized cognition. Chronos is life by the clock. Chronos is agreeing upon a set of times. You know, when is it noon? When is it 1 o'clock? When is it 6 o'clock? And that allows for the massive collaboration and cooperation and sort of transactional qualities of civilization. So Chronos has its place, but it's not the only way to experience time. There's also Chiros. And Chiros is sort of what we're in now. Chiros is the experience of time that warps and dilates depending on our moods, but it's not bound to some externally imposed dictation. And so Kairos allows flexibility of imagination. Kairos is the endless summer. Kairos is time slowing down when you listen to your favorite song. Kairos is when you lose yourself in a movie. I had a stroll yesterday here where I'm staying, some access to some nature, and I did my best to enter the space between space and unplug from time. And the interesting thing that happens in that state of consciousness when you're outside of time is that you really do have the felt experience of timelessness. Dropping the thread of time allows your inner landscape, your fantasies and daydreams to play out externally. So when you're free of the tyranny of time, especially in nature, you're essentially sort of embodying a waking dream in that your external actions are mediated less by the impositions of culture, but instead your external actions are a reflection of your interior landscape. And if your interior landscape is soaring and flying and fantasizing, it allows you really to enter the realm of play. And so Kairos, the mythopoetic, the timeless, the liminal, is the realm of play. And it's the realm really to excite and agitate your imagination. I love it because that's where my art sprouts. That's where my work emerges from. And you know, I don't always go there. I don't always do it. Sometimes I get, caught up in the busyness of trying to be busy. But when I do it, I typically feel great during and after the fact. So that's what I wanted to share. I'm just gonna see if there's anyone that's trying to come on here. I just like the world warping. It's like bringing two worlds together. or two people in two places across the planet all of a sudden sharing in an intermediated psychic landscape of sorts. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Random conversation with someone new. It's always such a trip. It's like serendipity. It's like, who is this person? Hello.
Hey, Jason.
Hi.
I'm Amanda.
Amanda, nice to meet you in
Nice to
the
meet you as well.
in the virtual in the
Like
virtual scapes. Where are you?
I'm in Boca Raton, Florida.
And how's it hanging over there?
It's hanging. I mean, we're hanging in.
Yeah.
We're self-quarantining.
hmm hmm And are you staying creative and keeping busy somehow during this surreal time?
I am.
Uh-huh.
I'm also taking a lot of time to rest. I've been really
Okay.
like just sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night and like giving myself a lot of space to rest. I feel like this is a time when I swing back into feeling creative. I got a ukulele, so I'm not really a musician. I'm trying to like play the ukulele
Why
and
not? Why not?
yeah, and just
My
show up
brother.
in a way. Go ahead. Sorry, there's a
No, I was
car.
gonna say, and he's jamming here. I think anything that we can do to channel our angst in creative ways, in playful ways, is useful. I think if we can deploy um, certain rules for ourselves, like I'm going to be creative this afternoon, or I'm going to read this book, or I'm going to, something that steers our mind and our awareness away from focusing on, this fucking virus or when it's going to fully end. Because I think what happens, it's a little bit like staring at a clock. When you stare at a
Mhm.
clock, the minutes go by really slowly. But when you go
Agree.
watch a movie or read a book or talk to a friend or get distracted or do exercise, like time becomes sort of less oppressive and just something that matters less and matters not. And I get caught up in it sometimes where I'm just like these politicians like 2 more weeks, and I'm like 2 more weeks, oh my god! But then it's like, well, like okay, so 2 more weeks, I'll exercise, I'll read books, I'll be creative. Like that's like it doesn't matter. What's important, I think, is that we're turning the page and things will improve. Things are improving. The data is showing that we're past the peak in most places, as they say, and so
Yeah.
I think now that there's light at the end of the tunnel, I think it becomes more about like, okay, like what does this renewal and reopening look like? And so that's a better feeling than what we were a month ago, where it was like the world is collapsing.
Collapsing. Yeah. 100% agreed.
So
I've been keeping
yeah,
some routine of just letting myself rest, but also like doing my workouts and
yeah,
meditation. I'm really into qigong right now. I just made
sure,
an acai bowl, so that's why my lips are purple.
good work, good work,
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
awesome,
So just like resting until it's time to play and then show up
yeah,
and try to help others in the same.
yes, yes, I think that's the move. Cool. Well, I'm happy that you're hanging in there and making the best of a strange situation. But certainly
Yeah.
from here, a lot of creative things. I just want to say, well, the usual stuff. We're all in it together and hang in there. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate what you do, Jason. Thanks for being you.
Thank you so much. Do you have any like a specific question before I turn the corner here?
Um, I know you just answered where you would want to wake up in the world.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you had to pick one place to live, like
Hmm.
live, because I've been digital nomading for quite a while now, and I feel like I want to
Oh,
get like I'm grounded now, but I feel like I want to get grounded. Uh,
yeah. I
in
mean,
what?
that's a tricky question because I when I finished hosting, getting invited to do so much public speaking at different events around the world, I realized that I could make a living from speaking primarily, and so that was very freeing because I didn't have to be based anywhere. But the truth is, the majority of speaking engagements tend to happen in the West Coast, like San Francisco, LA, Las Vegas, like that cluster. And so there's a reason to have at least some kind of presence in the West Coast for me. At the same time,
Okay.
if I wasn't bound by, but at the same time, I do speeches around the world as well. I mean, Brazil, Mexico, all these places. So there is a global element there. But honestly, if that was not a factor and I was just like picking a place that I liked, I'd probably want to be based in Amsterdam. In terms of like a city, that's a city that like ticks a lot of boxes for me in terms of like mobility and quality of life and egalitarianism and choices and options of things to experience and enjoy with minimal friction and maximum flow. And I think from there, it's also very easy to go to other places around Europe. But I'm not Dutch around the world. I realized that I could make a living from speaking primarily, and so that was very freeing because I didn't have to be based anywhere. But the truth is, the majority of speaking engagements tend to happen in the West Coast, like San Francisco, LA, Las Vegas, like that cluster. And so there's a reason to have at least some kind of presence in the West Coast for me. At the same time,
Okay.
if I wasn't bound by, but at the same time, I do speeches around the world as well. I mean, Brazil, Mexico, all these places. So there is a global element there. But honestly, if that was not a factor and I was just like picking a place that I liked, I'd probably want to be based in Amsterdam. In terms of like a city, that's a city that like ticks a lot of boxes for me in terms of like mobility and quality of life and egalitarianism and choices and options of things to experience and enjoy with minimal friction and maximum flow. And I think from there, it's also very easy to go to other places around Europe. But I'm not Dutch, so it's for now a place I can only go for short periods at a time. When me and Rachel went to Kauai last year, that kind of blew my mind. I never thought of myself as somebody who could live on an island, but that place like turned me on in so many ways. It's like living in the most paradisical environment you can imagine.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm not gonna lie. I love the high of a new place. It's like whether it's Kauai or Bali or Tokyo. Like I love exploring like a new
hmm
environment, and so that
Yeah.
can be a drug in itself. So yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Greece, Thailand, and Costa Rica are three of my favorites so far, but there's so many places
there you
I
go.
have yet to
Yeah,
explore.
I feel you.
I have one more for you that's coming to mind right now. Do you
Mhm.
have any like medicinal mushrooms that you take every day that are like on your radar, or do you take? Yeah.
It's funny. Good question. I just watched Fantastic Fungi, wonderful film my friend Louis Schwartzberg directed. And there was all this stuff about. That's so funny. He just texted me. Ha, Louis Schwartzberg. Let's connect. Funny. Just
Call
now.
it in.
Yeah. I was not that familiar with a lot of the medicinal mushrooms, but no doubt there's some good stuff there. So maybe I will start supplementing. Of course, I'm very familiar with psychedelic mushrooms and their power to heal. Although I myself have limited experience, I have consumed an obscenely large amount of literature and have decided that if I am going to have one of these psychedelic mushroom sessions, it has to tick all of my criteria for a perfectly calibrated set and setting. So once I have that criteria, I'll probably be interested in partaking in that. Um, so yeah,
So you have done a psilocybin trip, or you haven't?
I have not. I have not. No, no. I am primarily have experimented with plant medicines like cannabis, and I've had a couple of MDMA experiences that were really wonderful, life affirming, and jolting, both recreationally as well as with therapists. So
Oh,
that's
cool.
that's a very powerful PTSD medicine for
And
sure.
so, what would be your number one plant medicine to try?
Well, I would say if you live in California, cannabis for sure. I think people have normalized to cannabis that they forget that message as LSD if you let it. These are the words of Rick Doblin.
I have had, well, call them spiritual, oceanic experiences on cannabis that have massively influenced my work and my outlook on the world. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. What's your
Yeah.
number one thing to get into Poetic Flow?
I would say a combination of an outrageously beautiful environment, novelty, and and um, and cannabis. I think one of my favorite things ever was partaking in some cannabis and going snorkeling. Um, I had a outrageous Technicolor pungent encounter with the Mysterium Tremendum. It was overwhelming. Oh my goodness. I had to find the language. I think that's why I love to quote people, because when I have an experience, I need to vet it against the writing of others who have had the same experience. So that's why I often cite Michael Pollan. He's written extensively about cannabis, things like the virginal noticing of the sensate world, or a sense of first sight unencumbered by knowingness. So I'm always on the lookout for how the romantic poets made sense of their experiences of the sublime. It doesn't matter how those experiences were mediated, whether by psychoactive compounds or just by the outrageous circumstances that these poets found themselves in. Whatever the trigger was matters less than the experience itself and how they found the words to map those experiences. That's what interests me. So
I feel that.
yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I hope everyone is hanging in there. And yeah, well, I'm gonna take off and go for a little walk now.
Okay. With I snorkel quite a bit here in South Florida, and it's like a world itself in and of itself. It was so nice to meet you too, Jason. Thank you.
You too. Sure. Cheers. Bye. And to all of you, great to see you. And I'll catch you guys soon.